Well guys, this behind me is a gaming PC with an i9 and an RTX 4070 Ti. What if I told you that an ITX case exists in which you can mount your PC in any way you want? You can put your motherboard any way you want. You can put your PSU in every position you prefer, and you even can fit an RTX 4090 or, well, basically 3-slot GPUs into it with it being fully vertical mounted. Well, it's the Streacom DA6 and it's the case we are building in today. Now, this build right here cost me around 1700 euros. All the components in the build, except for the graphic card and obviously for the case, are actually coming from my previous build in the NZXT Manta, the one you've seen on the channel for all this time and that I've just recently swapped for the Height Y60 in the video that was released not too long ago on the channel, in case you're interested. And here are all the specs. It's got an i9 11900K, an NZXT Kraken X62 with two 140mm Corsair fans. It has an RTX 3080 Ti Inno3D that we modded and put two Arctic fans. The PC has a 2TB Samsung 970 EVO NvMe SSD, 32GB of RAM, GSKill Trident Z, and a 750W EvGa 750W 80 Plus Platinum power supply. Now, the most important thing is the case. Now, this case, I request Streacom to send me one. They happily agreed, and they will actually be doing a giveaway. So stay tuned. If you want to win one, we will do a giveaway. It's going to be on my Instagram, so stay tuned about that. Let's go take a look at the unboxing. So the case comes in this very minimalist packaging. It's pretty straightforward. It's already mounted, and it has those little metal slots that you can move up and down by tightening and loosening the screws, and this allows you to basically mount there the components. With being a bit creative, you can make the space for a power supply or for a radiator, for a fan, for your motherboard, for whatever you want. Now, what's good and what's bad about this? What's bad is that it's not beginner friendly at all. I do not recommend this case if it's your first PC. It's a very tricky PC to build. It is actually so tricky that on the website there is no a full building guide. They just tell you how you can do things, but then you have to do it your own way. So you need to be an advanced user. However, this allows you to do things which wouldn't be possible in a normal PC with this small capacity. This is around 20 liter if I remember it correctly, and it's just like very small. It's like 25 centimeters by 25 centimeters, and it's just like a bit over 50 centimeters tall. It's very, very small, but you can fit a non-SFF power supply, because in every small form factor build you have to use an SFF power supply like the SF750 from Corsair, but here we use a full-size power supply. I do recommend getting a modular power supply, however, but you can fit any one of these. Now, yes, you have to use an ITX motherboard, but you can fit a 280mm radiator in it. I'd go as far as to say that I have made the tests. You can actually fit a 360mm radiator if you want to. They do not officially support it, but you can do it. And you can fit, again, a triple slot GPU. Now, they do sell a riser. It's not included with the case if you buy it in the normal version, in case you already have a riser, but they do sell this very unique Gen 4 riser, which is made specifically for this case. I do recommend getting it. I will put a link to that one as well in the description down below. Now, let's get on with how we built our own. Now, first step for us was to just slot the motherboard in. Again, we already had the motherboard fitted with the RAM, the SSD and the cooler, but pretty straightforward. Just slap the motherboard in. It has 4 screws, just screw it in. Then tricky part begins. We have to find the proper height for the radiator. So we just go on the back and 4 screws will be plenty. So we just find the height of the top utmost screws and the bottom down screws. Once we found these, we just use some normal radiator screws and screw them in from the back side. Now, once we've got the actual radiator in, I thought it's the time to do a bit of cable management, just a little bit, and to connect the I/O ports. Now, this case comes with a simple power button, and then it has a USB-C connector. However, they are very smart, and the interface is USB-C on the out, but it's USB 3.0 on the in, so you can actually connect it even with motherboards that do not have the USB-C connector, and every motherboard has a USB 3.0 connector, so that's very nice of them. At that point, I just connected the included PCIe extension, and the troubles to put in the graphic card began. Now, yes, you can fit every GPU into it. However, I'm not saying it's simple, okay? The mounting mechanism is pretty tricky. You have to basically unscrew the screws without taking them out, and that will serve as a clamping mechanism for the I/O slots of your graphic card, which will be on the top of the case as well as your actual motherboard input and output port. Now, yes, you can also put the case lane horizontally. That's something you can do if you design it properly. However, I do prefer to have it standing up, so in my case that's where everything was going to. Now here, this Inno3D RTX 3080 Ti, what's the matter with it? Why do you see those ugly up here fans during the build process? Well, actually this is a graphic card which we bought in a bundle used, and it was working. However, of the bundle 3 GPUs we bought, 2 of them had fans issues. So we went ahead and repaired the fans. I will have a tutorial on that soon on the channel, so stay tuned for that. I've talked about it on my Instagram already. But basically you do want to use some oil to lubricate the fans and get them working as good as new. But for some reasons, while working on that, this one had a couple of issues. Those up here fans weren't good and we had to switch to Arctic, as I just said. However, that made the PC very silent. But as you can see, the card with the additional fans is basically as thick as a 3-slot fan, and it was fitting perfectly. It was also very heavy, but it was able to stay straight. Now, to be sure it would fit well, I also added a couple of screws that connected to an additional bracket. But once we've done that, basically I just connected those sleeved cables, which I got because I think you can really improve the aesthetic of your build if you get a couple of sleeve cables. Now, there are a few brands I collaborate with which make very good sleeved cables, and one of these is for sure Reaper Cable. They sent us a cable. Now, didn't work with them on this build, but they do make some very good cabling. And getting sleeved cable in ITX builds really helps reduce the clutter of the cables, and in this case it helps to cover up a bit the ugly part of the case. So I think it's a little trick to make the build look better. That one and the RGB for sure help. Now, after we've done that, we just went ahead and connected our power supply. Now, again, if you do get an SFF power supply, it's gonna be much easier for you to build in this thing. Since we've gotten this full-size ATX power supply, it was definitely tricky. We had to push the cables against the actual all-in-one. However, doing that really allows us to save money on it and to get a very good power supply in for cheap. So I'm very happy about it. Plus, I honestly like the aesthetic of the PC being fully occupied by hardware. And then the cable management part started. Now, that truly wasn't fun and it was really difficult. They do give you a ton of stuff to cable manage it with the case, but that doesn't make it easy at all. It took us quite a bit to get it done, but then the PC was finally ready and we were able to benchmark it and to test it out. So let's talk about the benchmarks and thermals. Now, the hardware on this thing is top notch. Okay, let me tell you, the Firestrike score is impressive. It's doing 34K, CPU-Z score over 650 points in CPU-Z single thread and over 6,000 in CPU-Z multi-thread. Now, CPU thermals were actually really good, even on Prime 95 small FFT, even with the radiator being cluttered by cables, so that's definitely not an issue and goes to show just how good those NZXT coolers are. However, we did encounter quite a bit of issues with the graphic card. So initially, we had those up here fans. They are case fans. Please do not use case fans on your GPUs. It's a bad idea. So we put them on with zip ties. We had to undo it all and put them all back in. And we put some Arctic non-RGB ones. That didn't work either. GPU was shooting straight up at over 90 degrees, so we just took them out and we put the best fan I have in the house right now, which are those Arctic P12 ARGB. Right there, I have made a review for these in the white version for your radiator as well, in case you're interested. It's on the channel. But these are very, very good static pressure fans. I'd go as far as to say that they're the best value on the market right now. Now, I put them on, and with these, you cannot hear the PC running, even at 100%, and we set them in the BIOS because the issue was you cannot map them one-to-one with the GPU temperature increasing, so it was a bit of an issue. So you just put them at maximum speed all the time, but you cannot hear them even staying right close to the PC. As you can see right now, I can't hear them, so it's very good. However, even with these, we had to add a Corsair fan on the side to do a bit of an exhaust. Now we do have some airflow, so basically the radiator is pushing in the air, it's going through the graphic card, and then the Corsair fan is pushing it out, so it's working. But even like this, the temperatures are a bit high if you do not undervolt it. If you do not undervolt it, they stay at around 88 degrees, which is right on the edge of throttling. This card is supposed to go at 1640 megahertz at stock, and it's right around where it goes, so it's right on the edge. But it's summer in Italy, we have 30 degrees outside, so it's pretty good result. It's really the worst case scenario. But if you do undervolt it, you can get it as low as 80 degrees, which is fantastic. I do have a dedicated tutorial for this RTX 4080 Ti on the channel in case you want to take a look at it. I do recommend to undervolt everything. As a matter of fact, even the CPU was undervolted during all of these tests. I do have a tutorial for that one too, since it was the old CPU I ran in my personal system. But the thermal issues definitely are not because of the case, it's just because of the GPU. Actually, being in an open air configuration is the best you can do for a GPU. You just need something to pull the air away from it. So a fan we put on the back is perfect. But once you have a fan there, it truly is perfect. Now guys, obviously we've also tested it in-game, and aside from the fact that it's very cool to have this PC running with the mini monitor just there, to have a very small portable setup, because this is the idea of the whole PC, you can just transport it around, go in a hotel room, plug it into the PC and game on the go. With this thing, for 1700 bucks, you can game on the go with max settings everywhere, because Apex Legends, 1080p, 240 Hz, this thing maxes them. It's amazingly fast. Same thing for Fortnite, you can play 240 Hz easily, no issue at all with the i9 and the RTX 4080 Ti, which, just to remember you, is much faster than the RTX 4070. Its performance is exactly the same as the RTX 3090 in gaming. It's an amazing card. I actually have a dedicated video for this card. And now, we've seen the competitive multiplayer titles. Now the new Diablo 4 is finally out, and even there, this PC can play it max settings, no issue whatsoever. You can play Cyberpunk, max settings, no issue whatsoever. That is if we are talking 1080p. In 1440p you can play any game, max settings, even Cyberpunk with the DLSS in some way. And even at 4K, you can definitely play the competitive FPS titles. With a pretty decent refresh rate, actually I was testing Apex, you can do 144 Hz 4K pretty easily. Obviously, if you want to go and play like Cyberpunk full maxed at 4K, this thing you need some pretty good scaling, pretty good DLSS, but even that you can do. So it's truly at the pinnacle of performance. It's insane how the prices have come down and how small we can make a PC that goes this fast in game. So the case is really amazing. My impression of the case after building in it is that it's a great case. Honestly, it is a bit expensive price point wise, but for this kind of niche ITX SFF cases, it's actually pretty cheap. If you look at the other one, like the Look Ghost S1, then it's full of expensive cases in the ITX niche, because you have to really engineer them properly, and I really like the anodized aluminum on this one. They also make a black version in case you prefer. But do let me know, do you like the aesthetic? I will also put a bit of footage here. I'm also going to be trying to sell this PC later on. And do let me know if you like it and if you would like to take part in the giveaway, by the way. And I guess this is it, guys. See you in the next one. Bye.